Hey, and welcome to the Solid Verbal. Now would be a perfect time to consider subscribing. Yeah, that little subscribe button for year-round premium college football content. That's it. Here's the video. Enjoy. Subscribe.
Welcome back to the Solid Verbal, boys and girls. My name is Ty Hildenbrandt, that fine gentleman over there standing. Yeah. Standing, not sitting. He's excited for week 8. Dan Rubenstein, sir, how are you?
Not good. Not good, my good man. No, I'm great. I'm always excited for college football, always excited for week 8. We have a number of big games. You've said top heavy, but I'm never going to be a believer in that just because college football is heavy in and of itself. So, yes, in terms of the Power 5 matchups that have close spreads or that have potential division conference national championship locations, yeah, it's not a big one. But look, if in a random week in June, in early June, you said you want to watch Ole Miss LSU, I would say, oh, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I would absolutely like to watch it. So quite excited for the weekend. Threw my back out last night on the tennis courts.
Yeah. We didn't know if we were going to be able to do this show.
Yeah. I mean, poor me. I've been injured for, 16 hours or something like that. But feeling a little bit better, hitting the Advil. Not a sponsor, could be. Got an ice pack on the small of my back. Thankfully, no radiating pain down legs or up the back or something like that. So I'm hopeful that it's just one of those you should stretch more, young man, kind of injuries, and it'll go away with some time and some attention.
I mean, we don't want it to be a sciatica Saturday.
No, searing pain Saturday could be for some. I don't want it to be for me.
Yeah, no kind of spinal implication Saturday, hopefully, for my beloved co-host, Dan Rubenstein, over there in Chicago, Illinois. I'm over here in Eastern PA. Welcome back to the show. This is our Week 8 picks, our Week 8 previews, our Week 8 predictions episode driven by our good friends over at Geico. Over the next hour or so, we're going to take you through all of the relevant action. Maybe not all of it. We only have time for so much, but as much as we can squeeze into this here episode, we're going to do our very best to do just that. Don't forget, as you are watching the games this Saturday, 408 Verbal 1, give the Reverb line a call. Our boy Shay will cut them up, and we will play those at some point throughout the course of our Week 8 recap episode. If you have not done so already, please go on out to any of our social feeds, be it Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or TikTok, or I'm sure I'm forgetting something. Make sure you follow. Yeah. OnlyFans, thank you. Make sure you follow the show.
Only Dan's.
Oh, only Dan's.
Only Dan's, baby.
All right, that's definitely different. And last but certainly not least, we just opened up a new Solid giveaway at solidgiveaway.com. We're giving away a Nick Chubb helmet. Nick Chubb, Georgia helmet, not the Browns. That contest expires shortly before Thanksgiving. So maybe a nice little holiday gift for the Georgia fan in your life if you're ever so inclined.
I would say underappreciated Georgia star, Nick Chubb. Just because of the number of star running backs that have come through, I think now is the time to put a stamp on your either Georgia fandom or just if you're a fan of running back excellence. Nick Chubb, just because you had Todd Gurley, you had Sony Michel, and recently, the last couple, Kendall Milton and Jane, like all these guys. But Nick Chubb was, to me, the one they were like, oh man, he just seems like such a pain in the ass. Like almost had a calling as a Wisconsin running back in the way that he ran and the way he was built. What a joy to watch.
What a joy to watch. Solidgiveaway.com if you are interested, Dan. So we talked about the back thing. We, I think, are in unison in saying that we do not want it to be a sciatica Saturday for you.
Absolutely not.
What kind of a Saturday is it on the college football side of things?
Okay, so to me, I was thinking about the various narratives involved, the matchups involved, and just, I don't want to, you could say like snake in the toilet Saturday or searing pain Saturday, like I mentioned, but like it's shrouded in, I think, negativity with that, and I want to go more hope for this one. And so when I see the different matchups and I see the potential for a number of teams to either take an upset to the next level, they have a huge mountain ahead of them, or it's one of those things where an upset is not out of the range of possibilities, but you need to really go for it. You need a full send. It's not full send Saturday, but I have snip those brakes Saturday. Snip the brakes Saturday.
Isn't that a felony?
I think it's the proverbial brakes.
The proverbial brakes, okay.
Saturday. If you recognize that sound, good for you. It's from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. when Ferris and Sloan pick up, or Ferris and Cameron pick up Sloan
right
from school to head to the city. You look across the board and you look at Ole Miss, LSU. I'm never going to be worried about Ole Miss really going forward or going conservative. That's just not that team that I'm going for. And it's really, frankly, not an upset. It's not like Ole Miss has to be the one to say, screw it, we're going on 4th and 3 from our own 39. Or screw it, we are going to throw it on first down more than we usually do. Screw it, we are putting in a number of trick plays or whatever because this is an opportunity for an upset. LSU is the team in that situation that should be snipping those breaks. But across the board, right? UCLA in Autzen as an underdog with a national TV audience, with game day in town. Like, again, I'm not super worried about Chip, but they need to have that mentality to get the job done. And Syracuse at Clemson, who even knows what Syracuse looks like on the road? They've never played on the road. But all of these teams have the opportunity and have the wherewithal and have shown enough flashes. Duke going to Miami, right? I mean, Duke's 4-3, Miami's 3-3, but if they want to make that statement as an 8-9 point dog, gotta snip those breaks. Kansas State, I understand they've been a little bit on the conservative side, and Adrian Martinez doesn't want to get into trouble. I don't say we go full on old Adrian Martinez, but let's season the roast with a little vintage Adrian. That's all I'm saying. Snip those breaks.
I like it. And I think that's what we go with because the one that I have is very different.
Okay.
It is an important Saturday for many teams here in Week 8, but possibly the most important Saturday for one team that we're going to discuss today. What they do this Saturday, it could impact them for the next 2, maybe 3 seasons, Dan.
Wow.
Stakes could not be any higher in Week 8.
Are you going to reveal that team at a different point? Do you have to sign up for a special tier on verballers.com to find out the team that has 2 3-year implications this weekend?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to that nickname a little bit later on.
All right.
Stand by. Let's talk about our window. Allow that sound to just permeate through your ears. Window of opportunity this week is early. For me, it's an early window. So again, if you're out and about, if you got to go see Cats, 40th anniversary now playing in New York City.
Okay.
The games aren't all bad in the early window or anything. That's not my implication.
Okay.
This is a great week of games. I just feel like the afternoon and evening slates are much stronger. So again, watch your team at all costs if that's your thing. But if you're just sort of perusing, browsing, watching along casually, if you have to miss a slot, I think the slot to miss is early.
What would you do early? What is your recommendation if you had to do something early just to get out of the house?
Dog, we sit around so much doing this thing.
Yeah.
I sit in this chair more than anything in my life right now. So I would suggest just go out and be active. Maybe don't play tennis, at least not as intensely as Dan Rubenstein, because you don't want to have a sciatica Saturday either.
I bring the athletic torque to the table, Ty.
That's
you know
right.
That.
That's right. But yeah, try and do something active while it's still warm enough throughout the day. In most parts of the country, it was really cold here this morning.
Stroll for a few Saturday. Yeah. How about that?
Sure.
I think that's good. Listen to a podcast, listen to our show, listen to anybody's show about anything, and get a healthy scoop and a vitamin D.
Let's do it.
Dan, time, help. I need picks of the week.
Picks of the week brought to you by verballers.com. Yes, that is our Patreon. We are sponsoring our own segment because why the hell not?
Why not?
Verballers.com. You get early access to this episode, all of our episodes. You can vote in our Verballer Top 10 poll, which we put out every Sunday morning. It's maybe not the first poll, but certainly the most important on the internet. First thing every Sunday morning. You also get access to our Discord community, which is overflowing and teeming and just a great place to hang out if you're a college football fan throughout the course of the college football weekend. There are many other perks that come along with being a Patreon Verballer, not the least of which is you get to support Dan and I. So if you're ever interested in just taking a gander, going out to verballers.com, verballers.com, Dan. Shall we start in the early slate here, the aforementioned slightly weaker early slate?
We should. And yes, verballers.com. Now I might need more acupuncture or ice packs or something. So really, no. Support the show because you like the show and you like Ty, or maybe you like me. That's a good enough reason. let's start early.
12 p.m. on Fox. It is Iowa at 3-3. It is Ohio State at 6-0. Ohio State favored by 29, Dan.
Yes.
29. Interestingly enough, and I didn't know this until I popped the hood on this matchup, these teams don't play that often. You have to go back 5 years to find the last meeting in 2017. Iowa won that meeting.
I was going to say, what happened?
55-24. 55-24. They killed them.
Mm-hmm.
Largest margin of victory in the history of the matchup. Can you imagine the calls we would get this week if something happened and Iowa put up 55 in this game? Can you imagine what people would have to say about that?
Deer antler spray would be in one of the, and it is going to need a whole herd of deer antler spray. And even then, no, I mean, you're talking about an upside down universe, whatever it's called on Stranger Things, that would have to sort of envelop. This game is in the shoe, is it not?
It is a Scarlet in the shoe game.
Oh, okay.
So they don't call it a Scarlet
out.
Scarlet in the shoe, which is, I guess, a little bit more dramatic. It lends itself more to a movie title or something. But Scarlet in the shoe, everyone's going to be wearing Scarlet for this game. We have rightfully dunked on the Iowa offense this season. If you are listening to this episode right now, you already know that the Iowa offense is very bad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even considering the possibility, Dan, that Iowa could win this game because I don't think there's any chance that could happen. But the point spread, I want to talk about the point spread. The point spread is interesting because nobody's really blown Iowa out this year. Have they? Not even Michigan. Michigan was dominant in that showing, but even down to the wire, you and I are messaging back and forth because that was like my lock of the millennium, right?
Correct.
Even down to the wire. Kind of on a nice edge as to whether or not Michigan was going to cover that. I forget what the point spread was, 7.5 points. So 29 to me feels like a really big number, even against a team that I still think is going to win the national championship in Ohio State.
Ohio State came off of what last week? Not playing, right?
Correct.
So they're coming off of a bye week. And what do they have after Iowa? You can look at the schedule right now. It's not Michigan.
It is not Michigan. No,
it is not an especially scary Penn State.
Penn State.
It is a Penn State. I don't think it's a look-ahead moment. Iowa is a serious program, even if they're an unserious program this year. And so I don't think Ohio State looks past them. If there are teams that I trust to demolish big lines or look comfortable covering a big line, Ohio State is in that very, very small group of teams. Now, what you can say is Iowa's good enough to generate a weird 7-3 start after a quarter. The thing is, Ohio State's good enough to then be up 35-7 at halftime. And so it's a slowdown thing. And as part of the altar of Dan, as part of my picking ethos.
Oh, God, here we go.
If I am, of course. If I am picking a team to cover a spread on a certain level, I have to believe that a universe exists in which they are competitive in that game.
And can win, right? That's one of my rules, by the way.
Right.
Only bet money. I mean, we have to pick all of these games, so we can't do this universally.
Right.
But if you're betting money, only bet money on a team that you think can win the game, even if they're a dog.
Now, as it relates to Ohio State, all of their perceived impressive wins have become less impressive because of the actions of those opponents, right?
Correct.
We think less of destroying Wisconsin. We think less of destroying Michigan State. We think less of destroying Notre Dame based on the results thereafter. I think we are more confident in Iowa State's defense at this point in the season than we are anything those teams do. I mean, Notre Dame's defense, I think, is probably legit, right?
I think so, to some extent.
Okay. And they held game one Ohio State to 21 points?
Correct.
The Iowa defense doesn't play offense. That's my very advanced smart guy take. That a defense can only be as good as the time they spend on the field. And I just think they're going to be chasing too much. And I'm going to give the points. I'm trying to muster away. I am trying to excavate a universe. Fossils of a known universe in which Iowa is able to slow Ohio State's offense down enough. I think they're just going to be on the field too long and the dam's going to break. So I'm going to give the points.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get it. I went back and forth on this. I'm not confident at all, but I'm going Iowa plus 29.
Okay.
The one thing we haven't seen anyone do or try to do against Iowa is air it out. Like really hammer them through the air. And
For good reason.
Yeah, for good reason. But clearly Ohio State, if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be them. And I think if you told Ryan Day on Sunday morning, hey, you were able to throw for 350 yards on Iowa, he would take that in a heartbeat. He'd feel good about that scenario. That plays to their strength. If that is the case, if that does happen, Ohio State wins by 35 points, 41 points. They destroy Iowa in this game because Iowa's offense is not going to be able to carry the water at all. But I just, going on what we've seen so far from the Iowa defense, we know they're good enough to at least keep things sort of interesting. Maybe not win on their own, but keep things close enough within the numbers. So I'm going to go Iowa plus 29.
I don't hate the pick, and I imagine Iowa's going to play slowly. They're going to try to lengthen this game, try to see if they can find a turnover here or there to make a 21-3 game, 21-10, and more interesting. And again, I don't fully trust the Michigan State and Wisconsin results.
No.
And so that to me is, man, I might be going Iowa plus 29.
Well, think about it. If you want to come back to it, you can come back
we'll
to
circle back. But yeah, in the comments, by the way, Verballer Aaron said Iowa has covered every spread against Ohio State since 2006.
Yeah.
Whatever that means historically to you. We've seen a lot of firepower from Ohio State over that time.
Let's go to another noon kick. This one on ABC. It is Syracuse, 6-0 Syracuse, Dan.
Yeah.
Squaring off against Clemson, 7-0. Clemson favored by 13.5 points. So let's take a knee. Can we do some real talk here?
I can't physically take a knee, Ty.
Okay,
I just want to let you know that because of the blood flow issues in my body to my back. It's not great.
In a universe, if we excavate the universe in which we can both take a physical knee, let's take that knee.
Yeah.
I have loved Syracuse since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I almost went to school there. I have loved everything about Syracuse for as long as I can remember. I think it started because their colors are very close to my high school color. My high school colors were orange and black. Syracuse isn't black, but it was close enough that it looked the same to my colorblind eye, so I went with it. I loved watching Donovan McNabb. I loved watching the Missile Quadri Ishmael. Remember him?
Of course.
I'm a huge fan of the Syracuse program and the Syracuse story this year.
Yeah. You have a Greg Paulus jersey that you still wear on special occasions. Yeah.
Only on special occasions.
Yeah.
Only like anniversaries and things like that.
Uh-huh.
It almost feels surreal to me to see them ranked 14th, given how bad we thought they were going to be. I remember doing the preview. We thought this team was going to be left for dead. Dino Babers is getting fired. The works.
I think I did the preview. I was kind of out on the offense at times because it was too reliant on Sean Tucker for success to my eyes. And then I've always liked the Tony White defense.
I was fully out. No.
I know you were out. I do know that.
Fully out. You were a much brighter guy than me when it came to the Qs.
Yeah.
I was fully out.
Didn't see this coming, though, to be clear. Didn't see top 15.
Did not see this coming. So I have reasons for skepticism here. And I know you do as well, because we talked a little bit about the JMA Wireless Dome and how they unfortunately cannot bring it with them to Clemson, right?
Lot of home games so far.
Yeah. I think Clemson can run on Syracuse with Will Shipley and even with DJU. It seems to me like Clemson is a few weeks now into figuring things out, and that scares me in this matchup. Like, they kind of got the content figured out. They're just making some SEO tweaks at this point, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
The only reason I'm going to go Cuse here plus the points is because Clemson has been a notoriously slow starter this season. If you look at their stats in the first and second quarter, it takes them genuinely a half in most of their games to figure it out.
Right.
Given the Cuse style, which is, it might be news to some, very slow by comparison.
Yeah.
Take the air out of the ball. They average only about 11 drives a game, which is totally counter to the old Dino Babers NASCAR offense teams, right?
Right.
This is a much, much slower paced team. It has been so for the last couple seasons. They want to take the air out of the ball. I think if there is a scenario in which Clemson is again a slow starter, that Syracuse style has a bit of an equalizing effect here. So my hunch is Syracuse plus 13.5.
I'm going Syracuse plus 13.5, but I do not see a way in which they can win this game outright. I see a way in which they are competitive in this game. I could see a couple turnovers with I would say a somewhat confusing defense to play against, the 3-3-5 that Syracuse runs, a very active 3-3-5. Now, it's not the most havoc-y defense in the country, which I'd like a little bit better, but just in terms of the talent level on Syracuse's offense, that Sean Tucker could pop one at any moment, that even if the Syracuse offense isn't operating, all of a sudden he can go for 76 or something. So that to me is something to consider. Dino Babers' own chess match history with Dabo Swinney. Syracuse played Clemson tough, better Clemson teams tough. Now, granted, more beat up Clemson teams. I think it was it Hunter Johnson who was the quarterback at least part of the time?
Wow, the halcyon days.
Who was the backup quarterback that played? A quarterback got hurt, and then a backup quarterback played in the then Carrier Dome. We can reference that another point. I think Clemson is going to struggle with an always tricky Syracuse team that is somehow able to win a bunch of crazy moments and situations late in games. And even if it's just a come from behind backdoor cover in this scenario, I think they'll get enough stops and confuse DJU enough that they could lose this game 27-20.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm with you. I mean, look, if they cover the spread, if they win this one outright, we rename it to Syracuse Saturday. We just have to.
I mean, it's defense and rushing. If that's where you're starting out, again, Syracuse not an elite defense, but do enough well.
Yeah.
And I think Clemson is very good, but still has some flaws. I think that's a great place to start to cover a double-digit spread.
I hope it gets to 14, then I might jump on it.
Okay.
Also, in that early window, 3 other games here that I want to zoom through because we have so much more to get to.
Yeah.
ESPN2, it's Kansas at 5-2. It is Baylor at 3-3. Baylor was an 8-point favorite. Now they're a 7.5-point favorite. I am on Kansas here to cover and Baylor to win. I think we have reached the point now, Dan, where I'm just going to take them anytime they're getting more than a touchdown. Every team in the Big 12 feels kind of the same on some level, which is...
It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. It's great for the home viewer. But if they're getting more than a touchdown, in this case, they got that hook. I go Kansas.
I think we're going Jayhawks here. There is something about Baylor that I both trust a good deal. Like, I think their floor is pretty high. I think they're sort of solid across the board. They do a good enough job on defense. Blake Shapen he has not been mistake prone. I believe Gavin Holmes might be leading all Power 5 receivers in yards per catch, yards per reception. We can double check that. We have an army of fact checkers behind the scenes. We do not. I'm almost positive he does. I think it's him and Jonathan Mingo from Ole Miss.
Sure.
Are atop. So he's right there. I think I'm going Kansas here. I think I'm going Kansas here because situationally Baylor bothers me a little bit. And I'm not going to hold, the BYU game against them, and it's a shootout against West Virginia with some weird things happening in that game. I want to know what Baylor's specific identity is this year because they haven't been running the ball as well. Gavin Holmes has emerged. A couple receivers have emerged. But it's still that propensity at times to play a little too much small ball. Even with Gavin Holmes. They've improved there. That worries me. And so I'm going Kansas to cover. I think Baylor wins this game. It's in Waco, yes?
Game is in Waco, yeah.
I think it's back and forth. I think it's going to be a terrific signifier of how competitive this conference is. But I have Baylor close and thus Kansas. By the way, this is a not easy stretch of Kansas's schedule.
No.
Even if Kansas is full on pretty good. The stretch involved here with Oklahoma and TCU and Baylor, it's just week after week. It's really going to test their depth. It's really going to test their focus. But I think offensively, they're still in a good enough place with Jason Bean, if it is a Jason Bean game, to compete with Baylor, if not win this game. So, I'm going KU.
Kansas needs to win another game to get bowl eligible.
They do need to win another game, yeah.
They got to win one. And I don't think that's a given. Frankly, I don't think it's a given. They're a lot better. They're a good team. They're a good offense.
Right.
But I'm glad we can pump the brakes universally on Kansas a little bit here. I'm rooting for them, and I think they stand a great chance of winning this game. But
Baylor's current pass defense, in terms of success rate, how often teams are able to complete successful passes, 101st nationally, 96th most efficient pass defense. So
all right.
There should be some Jayhawk yardage in that final box score.
Also, we've got Cincinnati at 5-1, a 3-point favorite on the road at SMU. I just wanted to throw this one in there because we haven't talked a whole lot about Cincinnati. They're 5-1. They're ranked 21st. They lost to Arkansas week 1. It was a game they should have won, and then we sort of left them for dead.
Yeah.
Nobody's talked about Cincinnati. It's still a good team. I don't think they are as good as the team that we saw a year ago. I don't see how they could be, given all of their turnover, right? I mean, there's just no chance, but still a really solid team. I've got them winning this one over SMU, even though it's on the road by like 7-10.
Are you worried that Ben Bryant suffered a concussion and is questionable? Are you worried that I think it's Tyler Scott, the receiver, is also hurt?
Yes.
So that's, I think Ben Bryant practiced,
correct,
but is still like game time decision.
Game time decision. So yeah,
I think that's where the number comes into play, because SMU has been kind of up and down, and their defense is kind of a mess after taking some strides the last couple years. So that's what worries me about SMU. I think I'm going Cincy as well. I think even though the defense has taken a couple steps back, it's still good. It's still a good defense. They give up more big plays. The pass rush isn't as great without, those ridiculous ends and J. Sanders. I'm going Cincinnati here. I just don't think SMU is all that trustworthy, and I think in terms of finding ways to win, I'm still with the Bearcats, even though they're not running the ball as well. Without Jerome Ford, I still think they're able to manufacture wins in a more impressive way right now. Also, shout out, I messaged you this earlier. Tanner Mordecai has a backup named Preston Stone, the most interchangeably named quarterback room in college football, because it could be Stone Mordecai, it could be Tanner. Tanner would be great, but Tanner Stone, Tanner Preston, Preston Mordecai. It is a fully modular quarterback room, and I respect the hell out of it. That's taking like the old Georgia quarterbacks can work back and forth, last name, first name. Bennett Stetson. Sure.
Works.
That works.
Works perfectly.
Murray Aaron. That's different, but Murray is an acceptable first name. All over the place, we've been able to see this. And so SMU really taking that up a level with the modular quarterback name room.
Final game in the early window, Duke 4-3, Miami 3-3. Miami favored by 9. The line's gone up. The sharp bettors, from what I can gather, are on Miami here.
Okay.
Miami has underperformed every week. If you look at the SP Plus stuff, every week they have undershot their projection. And Duke is nothing if not motivated. Duke is playing with house money at this point, right? So you got to imagine they see a team like Miami, they're licking their chops a little bit. They have been good most of the year, better than expected. They've been another one of these college football feel-good stories this season. I can't come up with a reason to go Miami. I can't do it.
Did you see the giveaway, the discount happening for Miami Duke in Hard Rock Stadium?
No.
So you've heard of what a senior day is, right? Where you honor a team's seniors. I think it's a senior day in that senior citizens get a discount this week to go see Miami Duke for septuagenarian Saturday. I think it would be 65 plus.
Is Notre Dame playing?
Notre Dame is somehow not playing in a matchup that honors the greatest generation. I think I'm going Duke here. I think I'm going, and I don't even know if they win outright, but Riley Leonard appears to be the most consistently impressive offensive player in this game. And look, the opponents haven't been great. And I know Miami's receivers, they've been hurt, and some younger guys have stepped up that are promising. I appreciate all of that. But Miami just finds ways to play down to literally anybody they play.
Yeah.
And if you play down to Duke, even if Duke is merely average or below average or just kind of occasionally scary, that's good enough to cover.
Oh, yeah.
Mario Cristobal went through all the list of injured players. At one point, we were without our top 11 running backs and our top 17 line. Okay. I think Duke is just playing harder and smarter, and so that's too many points for me. When Miami jumped out to a comfortable lead against Virginia Tech, a Virginia Tech team that has nothing, Miami's presumably getting healthier and has an interesting ceiling because of TVD, who's been usually just inconsistent until lately. I'm going Duke here. I think Riley Leonard gets going impressively, and they throw everything at Miami in a place that's not terribly difficult to win at. So, yeah, give me the Blue Devils.
Afternoon slate. Here we go, Dan. Here we go. This is the big one for you. UCLA 6-0, Oregon 5-1, 3:30 on Fox. Your Oregon Ducks favored by 6. Now, last 2 meetings between these two teams have been 3-point games. 34-31 last season in Pasadena, 38-35 in 2020 when the game was in Eugene. Oregon has won both.
Yeah.
I am going to turn this one over to you in a second because you obviously are more familiar with the Ducks than I am.
Yeah, and you don't have the baggage.
I don't have the baggage.
As being an Oregon fan or UCLA fan or whatever.
From what I see on paper, though, these teams are dead even. They are dead. They are good offenses. Both have flaws on defense, specifically against the pass. Oregon is especially bad at generating pressure. They've not been a great tackling team, like all these stats that we look at. We talked to Bill yesterday, Bill Connolly from ESPN. He seems pretty sold on Oregon, not specifically in this matchup. We didn't talk about this game, but just in general, he thinks they're really good. Where are you at here with this matchup with this Oregon team? I know you feel pretty good about them, but how good?
I feel good about them against UCLA. And you mentioned those 2 matchups. It was something like 31 or 34-17 in the fourth quarter last year. Then there was some turnover stuff, and it was an Anthony Brown team. Not that Bo Nix has a history of being the most dependably consistent quarterback.
I was going to say, be careful. Be careful.
Quarter to quarter, week to week, month to month. I understand all that. And the game you referenced before that, I believe DTR did not play. I think that was a Chase Griffin game in Autzen that was down to the wire. So Chip has, after the first couple of years, has played Oregon tough these last couple times. That one from the Chase Griffin game in 2020 was in Eugene. Last year was in the Rose Bowl. This year's matchup is fascinating. UCLA's offense is a more efficient scoring offense so far. I discovered this a couple days ago. A more efficient scoring offense than any of his Oregon teams over the course of an entire season, of course. And so UCLA has probably the 4th or 5th most efficient scoring offense in terms of points per drive in the nation. They never go 3 and out. I think they're leading the nation in avoiding 3 and out on offense.
Right, that's right.
Iowa hired Chip Kelly. And DTR has been, by and large, against a sort of not crazy impressive schedule, other than Utah, excellent. And he was excellent against Utah. I worry that UCLA hasn't played on the road. I think they played Colorado, beat up Colorado, but they haven't played a meaningful game on the road this year. I worry that if UCLA is going to go to Oregon and win this game, they kind of have to be the best possible version of UCLA for 4 straight quarters, like a perfect version of themselves. And I don't buy it with the defense. I don't buy it with the talent level on defense. I don't buy it with the pass rush, just in a similar way that I don't trust Oregon on defense fully and don't trust the Oregon pass rush at all times. Oregon's been a much better tackling team since that Georgia game.
Right.
And that's coloring the statistics as it should, but they've been much better on defense in, preventing big plays. They're still not great at getting off the field on 3rd down. So I think UCLA is going to score. Ultimately, though, I think the crowd, I think the setting, I think the fact that Oregon can just run the hell out of the ball, and I think they're going to do it on UCLA. I think it's too much for the Bruins. I think the day will reflect very well on UCLA. I think once again, though, I'm going to give the points. I think ultimately over the course of 4 quarters, I have Oregon by 13 here.
Wow.
Something like 41-28, something in that range.
Is this really going to be an exercise where each of us has to ask ourselves, do we trust DTR or Bo Nix more?
It is. It's a total exercise. And yeah.
This is a thought experiment that I was not fully prepared for. I'm going UCLA.
Okay. Look, UCLA is a really good team.
Yeah, I'm going UCLA here, and I'm not sure who wins the game outright. I have no idea. I just feel like both these teams are pretty equally matched, and, that's not without some nuance. I understand I'm oversimplifying.
Yeah.
Just feels like 6 is a lot. It feels like with the physical nature with which UCLA likes to try and run the ball on their side of things.
And Oregon's been really great stopping the run.
Oregon's been great at stopping the run for sure. With maybe an improved DTR. He's been in the system forever. He should be improved. I just feel like everything you're saying is accurate. 6 points just feels like a lot to me. So I'm going to go UCLA.
Okay. All right. We disagree.
Also, 3:30 CBS. We've got Ole Miss 7-0. We've got LSU 5-2. Here's what's interesting about this. LSU is now favored. LSU is favored by 1.5. I saw the line, I furrowed my brow because I think very highly of Ole Miss. Interestingly, though, Ole Miss has underperformed, has also underperformed, as I mentioned with Miami. If we're going to call out Miami, let's call out Ole Miss too.
Please.
Ole Miss has undershot its projection in the SP Plus in 5 of their 7 wins this season.
Okay, hold on. Is there a connection? Henry Parrish. Henry Parrish is infecting teams and making them underperform, even though he himself is an impressive player. Continue.
It could be so. I don't know what it is, but the projection in this game is Ole Miss by 3. So if they undershoot that, hey, could be talking a big win here for Brian Kelly, a top 10 win. Don't count on it. It's Brian Kelly, just saying.
Right.
I believe in the Ole Miss ground game and in the defense a great deal. I am curious to see how both of those units function in a hostile road environment. Like, thus far, the road games have been Georgia Tech and Vandy.
Mm-hmm.
Notably more docile in those 2 settings than what they're going to experience in Death Valley. So What happens when you go to a place that's really loud? We already know this is a line for Ole Miss that's committed a ton of penalties. Suddenly, there's just more going on. So I question whether or not that line can be disciplined enough to not put them off schedule, to not get them backed up into situations where suddenly we've got a lot more pressure than expected on a guy like Jackson Dart. He's got to throw the ball in order to win. I don't like that setup. But I do think this is one in which Ole Miss is good enough with what they already have been doing well, ground game, defense, to win this one. So I also like the tendency towards big plays. We've seen that a lot from Ole Miss this year. I think it is that tendency that breaks this one open. LSU certainly does not create enough big plays on offense. We've talked about that. They also allow a fair amount of them on defense. So I'm on Ole Miss here. It's a 1-score game. I think it's close, but I like Ole Miss outright.
Ole Miss lock of the week.
Oh,
me. Yeah.
Lock of the week.
Continue.
Emotional win last week in the swamp. So I don't really think body blow theory. I don't like LSU's tackling in the open field.
No.
And it's not just colored by the crazy Anthony Richardson play, but I just have watched enough LSU at this point to know that I don't love them as a tackling team. I think Lane Kiffin will exploit enough of this LSU defense that hasn't done all that much against the run this year. Look, and if I'm going to go back to the altar of Dan and the ethos, I look at a couple of different things, and you watch LSU give up the number of bigger plays that they give up. You watch the inconsistency on offense to generate those big plays, and they did a better job last week against Florida. I think the Ole Miss defense is better than Florida's. I think just Ole Miss around the entire board. That's not English. I think Ole Miss, we'll take another stab at this, Ty. I think across the board,
there you go.
Ole Miss is just more dependable. I think their defense, even though I think they've taken a step back after losing DJ Durkin, I think their defense is still pretty good. They gave up too many points to Auburn last week. But in this setting, situationally, I like Ole Miss's ability to run the ball and get stops. That said, if you're asking me a quarterback trust question like we did with the previous game, if somebody is down 10 and needs to start throwing it with 9 minutes left or something like that, 10 out of 10 times I'm going to trust Jaden Daniels over Jackson Dart, this version of Jaden Daniels and this version of Jackson Dart, who they don't seem to trust with the game plan to go out and throw a bunch. And that's okay. Win how you're winning, and Ole Miss might be the best rushing team with all the transfers and everything in the country. I still think overall I trust Ole Miss to win in more ways, and the special team stuff with LSU still concerns me, that if this is a close matchup and back and forth, that those the easy hidden yards, the advantage still goes to Ole Miss for me. So
yeah, I agree.
I'm going Ole Miss, lock of the week.
I like it. I like it. I really do. Let's go to one other game here that I have in this afternoon window, 3:30 ABC. Texas 5-2, Oklahoma State 5-1. If I told you that the point spread here is 6.5 in favor of Texas and it's gone up, how would you feel about that? How do you feel about that? Does that surprise you?
Do you want to know how I would feel or how I actually feel?
How do you feel?
I'd like Oklahoma State a lot more if the 2021 defense were in town.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Especially that second half defense. I don't trust either of these teams. And I think Oklahoma State is better than what they showed after jumping out to that huge lead. They kind of pulled a Texas last week.
They
in terms
did.
of the way they jumped out against TCU and slowly let the Frogs back in that game and lost something heartbreaking late. What have we seen from Quinn Ewers on the road? I mean, look, it's a pseudo road game against Oklahoma and Dallas, I guess, but it's not a traditional hostile environment. I would always say take the points with a home dog with a good defense at home in a difficult place to play. I think Boone Pickens Stadium is a difficult place to play. I'm not in on this Oklahoma State defense in the way that I hope to be with Derek Mason. So I still think I trust the more seasoned quarterback in Spencer Sanders. I still think I trust the home field environment. I'm still a little bit worried about Texas's up and down game against Iowa State, not scoring a bunch of points.
Stealing my thunder.
I think it's back and forth. But again, if we're talking trust issues, I don't fully trust either one of these guys. But I think there's going to be a fire that's more pronounced lit under Oklahoma State at home against Texas as home dogs. So I'm going Pokes.
Here's the thing. I genuinely think Texas is a pretty good team.
Same.
I genuinely think they're a pretty good team. But I do think there are caveats to that. I think last week, the Iowa State game that you mentioned is a good example of them not being a finished product. They're just not. They're not there yet. They have things that they are working through. They're working through maybe some of their own trust issues.
Mm-hmm.
This is a team that should be a lot better than eking out a 3-point win over Iowa State.
Right.
I just feel like Texas has a lot more in the tank than that, and we didn't see it. The only reason I'm unsure about taking Oklahoma State with the points here is because they're really susceptible to big plays. You alluded to it with the defense. But big plays, long passes, that's Quinn Ewers' music, Dan. Mm-hmm. That's what he wants to do. That's what Steve Sarkisian wants to do with this guy. So I'm hesitant to go plus the points here. I'm hesitant to lay the points. Really, I don't know what I'm doing on this one. I've got Texas winning. I think this is a high-scoring affair.
Wow.
34-30, Texas wins, but Oklahoma State covers.
Okay. That's going to be the fascinating matchup is how often Texas is able to generate those bigger plays. Now that, you have Jordan Whittington, you have Jatavian Sanders stepping up, and then, Bijan's still there as an all-purpose guy. Roshan Johnson's there as an all-purpose guy. Like, the confidence I think Quinn Ewers and the Texas offensive coaching staff have in this offense to be creative and find open grass, I think is pretty impressive. Now, situationally, coming off that Iowa State game, though, I think they're beat up. They pushed him around a little bit. I'm still going Oklahoma State here. I think I'm going to go outright.
Outright, wow.
Because now what we're saying is Texas is who they were against Oklahoma, most of which was without Dylan Gabriel.
Right.
And Texas is who they were the first quarter of the Alabama game, who now Alabama gives up yardage. So I just don't know what is the defining impressive situation that we can look back on Texas with. That's all.
All right, let's move over to the night games if we could.
Let's.
7 p.m. ESPN, Mississippi State 5-2, Alabama now 6-1. Could this be another instance of exercising college football demons, Dan?
Exercise the demons.
Alabama's won the last 14 matchups here. 14 straight years of beating up on Mississippi State. Mississippi State, look, I don't have to tell you about the Bulldogs.
That's
you
true.
love Mississippi State. They
nearly as good as Kentucky. Yeah.
Nearly as good as Kentucky. They bring a pretty good, if not enigmatic team to Tuscaloosa this week, 1 week after Bama got dumped in Knoxville, I think it's worth noting that Mike Leach, in his time at Mississippi State, has lost by a combined score of 90-9 against Nick Saban. And in this matchup, they are a healthy 21-point underdog. So, how much do you believe in Mississippi State?
Right.
How much do you believe in whatever happened last week to Alabama being more of a trend than just a one-off? How much do you believe in general, Dan?
That's a good question. Now, Mississippi State has not been the same away from Starkville, which who is, Ty?
Of course.
Who is? What is the impressive Alabama moment this year? I mean, what is it? right? It's relatively close against Arkansas late, relatively close, if not very close, obviously, against Texas A&M late, and a loss to Tennessee.
Yeah.
Who have they comfortably separated themselves from? Now, I don't love Mississippi State's defense this year. I think if you're going to be the engineer on the Underthink Express, you give the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs and you say, go do your thing. Let's go win by 4 touchdowns.
Right.
Because Mississippi State has not been great up front, stopping the run. Not been great out in the open field, stopping the run. And so with the way that they finished that LSU game, now we're talking about, like, is Mississippi State going to keep it closer than, what'd you say, 21 points?
21 points, yeah. It's a big number.
Mike Leach hasn't really kept it all that close against Alabama. So in that it's in Tuscaloosa, in that it's a potential neck crack game, I think I'm going with, especially the way that Mississippi State lost to Kentucky, I'm going with Alabama to cover the spread and have it be their first truly impressive moment of the season.
I don't hate it. You know, the obvious area of concern for Mississippi State is the rush defense.
Yep.
You can get them on the ground. And their passing game also is built around a lot of short stuff. That's the Mike Leach system, right? The air raid. I don't think that's a formula for beating Alabama. I think the formula we saw last week is a really good formula to beat Alabama, but that was a lot of downfield stuff, and that's just not their jam. That's not what they do.
Yep.
That's not what they do. That said, the line feels comically high to me. It really, I mean, I think it's a bad matchup, but it just feels really high. My concern, though, with going Mississippi State, and perhaps this is a little bit of my own Samsonite Saturday at play, it's why I couldn't bring myself to take Tennessee outright a week ago, because it's just so hard to go against Alabama. It's hard to go against Alabama because we've had moments in the past like
That's true.
zombie Alabama.
But that's baggage. That's baggage.
It's baggage, right? They taste their own blood. Suddenly they turn into a monster. I'm a little bit worried about that here. I think they've tasted their own blood. I am banking on them destroying Mississippi State, them doing what they always do in the face of real adversity, and that is rip the arms and legs off of the next opponent.
But you're referencing like a story from like 2016, right? The zombie Alabama. I forget who it was. It was Dan Wolpe.
No, I am. But they've done it in the Saban era. They've done it in the Saban era.
It's the Saban era, but it's not the Bryce Young era, right? It's not the Jahmyr Gibbs era. It's not the Bill O'Brien era. It's not the, like, they have played down to a lot of teams these past 2 or 3 years. They don't have that guy on offense, as good as Jahmyr Gibbs and as good as like some of these receivers can be at times. There's no Devontae Smith, right? There's nobody that you can turn to on this Alabama offense to say, all right, let him go. Let him go wild. And that's the difference to me. I mean, that guy you can say is Bryce Young, reigning Heisman winner, that, you know, when he is in command and he is dealing, he's impossible because you can't bring him down. You can't catch up to him. Yeah. And he's just a wizard at extending plays. I'm going Alabama here. I am. And it's not because of previous baggage. It's because of the specific guys on their team and my losing trust with Mississippi State, especially on the road.
I dig.
I don't love it.
I'm with you.
But that's where my heart is.
I think I'm with you. Let's go to 7:30. ABC, Minnesota 4-2, Penn State 5-1. Penn State 4.5, 5 points the favorite. Every time I look, it seems a little bit different. Okay. I said it at the top of the show. There is a decision that needs to be made, that should be made this week, that could impact one team's next 2 to 3 years, and that's Penn State. That decision is that it is time to start Drew Aller, their phenom freshman.
I saw James Franklin talk about it this week. Continue.
He said nothing. It was a bunch of coach speak.
He said, Sean Clifford, and this is my paraphrasing his non-speak, Sean Clifford has earned the right.
Yeah, whatever.
Through what he's done here.
It's a start Aller Saturday for me, Dan. All right.
Okay.
Because I heard the same thing you did from James Franklin. It's a lot of coach speak. Mm-hmm. You know, they asked him, who's QB1? And, you know, he danced around it. I think he has been very loyal to Sean Clifford. That on some level, I guess, is admirable. But Drew Aller's thrown 29 passes, and anybody who watches the games can already tell he's better. You can just tell. Some guys have it. The way that Trevor Lawrence had it, I'm not comparing him to Trevor Lawrence. I'm just drawing a weird example. The way that Quinn Ewers had it the first time you saw him throw a ball this season. Drew Aller, has it to the extent that he's, I think, clearly better than Sean Clifford. Now's the time to make the move. Now's the time to make the move, because if you saw what we all saw last week against Michigan, you need more upside than that if you want to beat a team like Ohio State. Maybe even if you want to beat a team like Minnesota with a really good defense. You need more upside. You need somebody who can give you more on offense. I don't think Clifford's that guy. I've never thought that he's the guy. So we'll see. I think now's the time to make the move. For what it's worth, on the Minnesota side, Tanner Morgan's status is still up in the air. They have not ruled him out. He got carted off last week, I believe. He took an open fist to the side of the helmet while running for a first down early in the fourth quarter and got knocked out.
Can fists be open? Is that a thing? Can you have an open? You can have an open
closed
hand.
fist. Excuse me. I don't know why I said open fist. Open fist would be a slap, I guess.
Yeah. No, it was somebody trying to nudge a ball.
It was a regular fist.
Yeah. Correct.
So we'll see what happens with him. I hope he's okay. It sounds like, per PJ Fleck, he is doing, quote, very well. So we wish the best for him. I do question the Minnesota narrative a little bit, though. I question it because the narrative all along, even back to the preseason, right? Minnesota's a good team. Minnesota's a good team.
Yeah,
you know
they're
that?
Beat up at this point.
They're a good team. They got a good defense. They got a veteran quarterback. They can run the ball. I believe the defense is mostly good, but I believe the offense is very one-dimensional. Yeah. What did I say?
Yeah, one-dimensional.
I believe the offense is very one-dimensional.
Are you a one direction guy, by the way?
One direction guy? No.
Is that what you said? One directional?
No, I did not.
Before?
I said dimensional.
Oh, I know. I thought you screwed it up. It's okay. It's okay if you're a one direction guy. I think they're pretty good.
Really? You don't strike me as that. Anyway.
Really? Oh no. When I've heard One Direction, I've thought to myself, this is good. I'm not going to follow them on tour. I don't think they tour anymore. I think Harry Styles has made a nice solo name for himself on and off the field, Ty.
This is a zag. This is a real zag in our show.
But you've always said, wasn't your original AIM screen name something with Zayn? Wasn't that in there? No? I'm confusing you with somebody else. Continue.
Minnesota's lost to the only two decent teams they've played this year. Does that make you a good team if all you do is lose to the other good teams that you play?
Well, look, they have their usual September schedule, the Minnesota Nice schedule.
That's right.
Early on in September. That's always, pillowy soft. We should get some sort of pillow sponsorship or get another mattress sponsorship and tie it in to especially easy Septembers. That'd be nice.
I have Mr. Softy on the board here somewhere.
Okay. I just don't think Minnesota's all that good. You're also talking about homecoming for Kirk Sherrock or brief homecoming. Kirk Sherrock in Beaver Stadium, not to be understated here.
Kirk Sherrock.
There you go.
I think this is a game in which Penn State looks good. Whoever is at quarterback, good enough to comfortably beat Minnesota and mislead their own fans into thinking they've turned a corner. Because there is still somewhat of an expectation or perception of Minnesota as a good team, which, again, you point to when they've actually played other talented, interesting teams who win games. They lose, and especially don't look impressive on offense, especially if they're playing their backup quarterback. I think this sets up really nicely for Penn State to have a little bit of a turnaround in the mid-year.
I'm on Penn State here. I don't feel great about it, but I'm on Penn State here. I would tell you, just as like an aside, if you want to play a drinking game at home, chug your drink, whatever it is in front of you. If we see the scenario in which Mike Yurcich, James Franklin decide now would be a good time to put both quarterbacks in the game at the same time.
Sure.
They've done this. They've done this move before where it's like, oh, we're gonna split so-and-so out wide. Nobody's falling for that. Sean Clifford out wide.
There was the big bowl game with Trace McSorley and Sean Clifford seeing the field, or Will Levis. They were doing like weird pitch stuff. Was that the game against, it was either Washington or Memphis or somebody like that? Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, they've got that card up the sleeve at some point. There's no need to play it here. There's never a need to play that card. It would not surprise me if they played that card. Just
Penn State also,
just to throw Sean Clifford a bone if he's not the starter.
Right. Penn State strikes me as a team that if they, for whatever reason, have a different coach next year, that they could be like Keystone State TCU, where it's just like all of a sudden next year they've got this high-flying offense. Like, these guys were on the team the last 2 years. And suddenly whoever is the new head coach at Penn State, and they suddenly, in the way that Sonny Dykes did it with TCU, all of a sudden, same guys who are struggling are super explosive and interesting. That's what Penn State strikes me as, that they are so far below their potential on offense that you have to question not the guys, but the guys coaching the guys.
8 p.m. Speaking of TCU, they're at home. They're a 3.5-point favorite against Kansas State. Your Kansas State Wildcats.
Yes, sir. Sometimes.
When we last left our heroes in Manhattan, Kansas, Dan, or from Manhattan, Kansas, they were on the road. They were grinding out a 10-9 win in Farmageddon.
Mm-hmm.
They've had
10-9-ness.
They've had a week to think about it, to get ready for this TCU game. Of note here, TCU might be the conference's only unbeaten team, but Kansas State has yet to lose a conference game. So, for all intents and purposes, this is a battle for conference supremacy in the Big 12. Both are atop.
Agree.
The Big 12 standing is a big game.
Huge
game.
A purple out.
I like the fact that Kansas State has beaten two teams that are similar enough in Oklahoma and Texas Tech. Again, that is oversimplifying. Don't hold me to that. But similar enough. Big plays, quick strike offenses, that type of thing. They've acquitted themselves well in both of those matchups, and they've proven that they can score with the opponent if they have to. That's what it takes to win. They can play that game. I also think there's big letdown potential here for TCU. Big time letdown potential after last week. After what we saw last week, they were down, 24-7. They came back. They wanted OT. Now suddenly they're a top 10 team. That's a lot to process in a week. So
Agree.
I'm going K-State outright. I like K-State in this matchup.
I think I am too.
Yeah.
But I don't think we've gotten TCU right all that often this year.
Look, I never get them right.
I'm going Kansas State here. I think they'll be able to run enough to control this game. I'm never super confident in Adrian Martinez in a big spot, and especially this year. He was explosive, I believe, against Iowa State, right? But, man, I still have some trust issues with Kansas State on offense. I just, at a certain point, I don't believe TCU is an undefeated team.
Yeah.
And so I think this is a tough matchup against a tough defense in a letdown spot after the emotional overtime win last week, as you mentioned. So I'm going, was K-State off last week?
K-State was off last week. They had a week to think about the 10-9 win and a week to prep for TCU.
I'm going K-State here. At night, I think it gets weird.
I think I'm going to lock it up.
Lock it, dude.
Yeah. I think I'm going to lock that up. Final game here in the nightcap, and then if there are any others that you just want to rattle off, whatever. Texas A&M. Texas A&M is a 3-point road favorite at South Carolina. A couple things of note here. First off, Carolina's got a better record than A&M, which maybe you saw coming, but probably didn't.
Right.
Secondly, we have not talked a lot of South Carolina this year. They're 4-2. Realistically, if they want to be bowl eligible, they got to win 2 of their next 4 games, because it's a much, much tougher path if you come to the final 2 weeks of the season, week 12 and 13, and you got to beat either Tennessee or Clemson on the road to get the 6 wins. So it's got to happen at some point over the next month here if they want to go back to a bowl game. Generally speaking, these teams are mirror images of each other, at least statistically speaking. Neither is particularly good against the pass. Both are much more efficient when they run the football. Neither is good at stopping the run. All right? Most of the picks I saw in this matchup are on South Carolina, interestingly enough, plus the points. I'm going A&M here. I'm going A&M because I just don't, I cannot convince myself that they are that bad. I just can't. And I know Carolina's improved.
I've got some footage.
I know you got footage. I've seen the footage.
You're interested. Yeah.
I've seen the footage.
Yeah.
I cannot convince myself. Maybe I will be convinced otherwise after this matchup. I cannot convince myself that A&M is losing on the road to South Carolina, that they're not winning this game by more than a field goal. There are many things, many of them not so great, but they've played so much better competition in South Carolina. They almost beat Alabama a couple weeks ago, which is still a pretty good team, in my opinion. Spencer Rattler is not quite the revelation at quarterback that I think we hoped for the Gamecocks. He's still better than what they had, but 8 interceptions this year, I don't think that bodes well for a matchup like this against what I think is still a decent enough defense. I think this is a game where Devin Achane runs wild. I think A&M wins something like 31-21. Easy cover.
Okay. So Texas A&M, since scoring 31 against Sam Houston,
Yeah.
they have not scored 25 points in a game.
Correct.
So running wild, that turn of phrase implies the potential to score 25 or more points. They've scored 14, 17, 23, 24, and 20. They lost to both Mississippi State and Alabama these last couple weeks.
That's correct.
Now, coming off of a bye. I just think South Carolina is going to be up for this game, and I don't love Spencer Rattler, but they've been more surprising and decent enough on defense. And if you're decent enough on defense, that's kind of plenty to beat Texas A&M. Texas A&M has a tough stretch after this game. There's look-ahead potential there, right? Isn't it Ole Miss and Florida, like some bigger programs, some higher-profile programs? Texas A&M does nothing if not play down to and compete with whoever they play.
Yeah.
Right?
I guess that's
I
just
think
where
this game
we're
comes
at.
down
Where
to
we're at now.
juice. I think there's more to squeeze from South Carolina. I think there's more juice there, and I think there are more ways to win. You saw the way they ran the ball against Kentucky. Even though A&M is stout up front, I just don't think there's going to be a lot of energy from A&M in this one. So even though it is the Kenny Hill September Heisman game, if you remember all those years back, it was a Thursday night game, I want to say.
Yeah.
Was it in South Carolina? Was it in Columbia?
Yep.
I'm going South Carolina here.
All right.
I think they are a more locked-in team right now. I think there's more belief on the sideline with South Carolina. I think they're a team in the second year of Shane Beamer that is growing into a better team and in a better direction than Texas A&M is. And if that defense is at least okay, I don't love the A&M passing attack against it.
I think that's all fair.
I'm going South Carolina.
It's all fair. That's all I got, Dan.
That's all you have?
That's all I got. Yep.
All right, let's talk about some other games just that are interesting and good.
Give me the rundown.
Washington will probably be bowl eligible against a woeful Cal team. That's Pac-12 after dark. That's Washington on the road, though, so who knows? We have Pitt Louisville.
Yeah.
Pitt can get to 5-2, a very quiet 5-2 with all the injuries that they've and the weirdness of their season and, having a running back who can go for over 300 yards. I think they'll be in good shape against Louisville, but who knows there. Oregon State trying to get bowl eligible against Colorado. Something tells me they will. A quiet, interesting G5 weekend. UCF, East Carolina. ECU, of course, with the very dramatic game last week. And UCF, John Reese Plumlee, finding grass, Ty. Finding grass. Doing
I believe
his
it's
thing.
John Rice Plumlee. Thank you.
Excuse me, John Rice Plumlee. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely Rice and right. Who else do we have? I was looking through this earlier today. Hawaii, Colorado State is one of the worst football games that will be fielded of the past decade. So if you are an adherent to the sicko lifestyle, this is your Super Bowl. This is your Champions League championship, whatever that's called.
That's a really bad game.
They should give out a special trophy. What's the World Cup trophy? The Ballon d'Or? Whatever. I got that wrong. I'm positive.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. But there should be something spectacular for that. Purdue, Wisconsin. Purdue never beats Wisconsin. But they might this year.
This could be the year.
That's in Madison. Even still, I don't hate it. Liberty looking to get to 7 wins against BYU. I imagine they will. Wake looking to get bowl eligible and get to 6-1 against BC. I imagine they will. Texas Tech, West Virginia is going to be wild. It's going to. We talk about the havoc stat. That is a havoc matchup. West Virginia and Texas Tech at any given moment. Either of these teams can do anything. UNLV has easy skating this week. It looks like they have an upstart from Indiana.
Yeah. 24.5 points. Yeah.
Oof, man. Secret G5, we got a great MAC game in Toledo, Buffalo. Toledo with a very nice, impressive comeback win last week against Kansas State. Buffalo also without a loss in conference. Navy, Houston. Navy's at least looking a little bit scrappier, and Houston's disappointing. So games in Annapolis, it's just worth keeping an eye on. Indiana, Rutgers, not worth keeping an eye on. And Thursday we have Virginia, Georgia Tech. I wouldn't watch that because that means you'd have to watch Virginia attempt to play college football. UAB Western Kentucky, Friday night. That's quality as well. So I think in terms of there's football on, it's a pretty deep weekend. Obviously not with top level Power 5 games, but there's a lot there.
Well, it's tough to compare to week 7 because 7 just had so much going on. 8 is still very, very sound, very, very solid, but there are a few breaks, a few moments throughout the course of the day when you can catch your breath. Which,
you want to drop some quick, big, stanky fight for me? And drop. Why not?
All right, Dan. 12 o'clock. We've got Bucknell 0-6.
Oh, man. Sicko game.
Versus Lehigh 1-6, Dan.
Okay. How many people in your mind, in your estimation, does the Lehigh Stadium, what's the name of that stadium?
Goodman
Field?
Stadium.
Goodman Stadium. How many people does it sit? Does it sit 10,000? Is that pushing it? 7,500? Goodman Stadium?
No, it looks like it's 16,000 here.
16,000.
Yeah.
We have 0-6 against the home team, Lehigh Mountain Hawks, 1-6. Will there be 3,100 people there?
Yes.
You think so?
Absolutely.
People go wild for Lehigh football even
People
still?
People are into it. Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. They'll be there.
I'm going Bucknell here. Why not? Georgetown at 1-5. Colgate 1-5. What is going on? You guys couldn't win any games against the Ivy League.
Go Gators, baby. Give me the Gators.
You're going Gators.
Georgetown away from Multisport Field. Come on.
Just not the same team. It hurts me to say this, but Holy Cross, you have an opportunity to go see quality football in your proverbial backyard.
I do.
Right?
I do.
Holy Cross at 6-0, setting up the huge matchup against Fordham. It's the next couple weeks, I think. Lafayette in Easton. Chance for an upset here? Look ahead potential?
No.
For the Crusaders?
No, I'm on Crusaders. You know that. Always on Crusaders.
I think Lafayette shocks the world. I really do, Ty. This is the week. You can't walk down any street in America without people saying,
everyone's talking about the Yetis.
For Lafayette.
Everyone's talking about the Yetis, yeah.
On everybody's lips. I'm going Lafayette here.
Outright.
Not even to cover the spread. That's going all over the place. If you've been paying attention to the sharps with this one, I'm going Lafayette at home in Easton. Good show, Ty?
It's only a matter of time before one of us and some of our stupidity ends up on one of the Patriot League Instagram feeds. You know, like
I hope so.
It's been cut into a reel or something.
Yeah.
As a pump-up video to get ready for the Bucknell or the Georgetown or the whatever matchup.
As long as I can approximate my voice that's somewhere between Bebop, Rocksteady, and Macho Man Randy Savage. Like, they told us leopards that nobody believed. Well, I'm here to tell you the Crusaders haven't ever been to Easton.
That's more Macho Man. That's more Macho Man than I think you're going for.
I agree. It's somewhere. Yeah, I got to get back to my Bebop, Rocksteady era. I love the Patriot League. I watch Patriot League games on, by the way, that UNLV Notre Dame game. It's a peacocker.
Peacock game. Yeah. Can't wait for that. Can't wait for the calls from Mama H.
If you were to, I don't know what's on Peacock. It's NBC's, right? It's NBC's streaming service. How many Notre Dame fans do you think are going to start watching Notre Dame UNLV on Peacock and then say to themselves, what else Peacock has? Friends? Oh, I can watch The Office.
That's what they're counting on.
Scott's Tots.
That's what they're counting on.
Man. All right. Enjoy that. Are you going to actually tune in?
I probably will for just a minute. Yeah.
Okay.
I probably will. I have to. I'm invested now. I want to see where this team goes because, believe it or not, there's some big games left on that Notre Dame schedule, notably Clemson and USC. So I would like for them to be competitive in those matchups, though what we've seen over the last couple of weeks hasn't been all that promising. But there is still a universe in which maybe they can pull this thing together and get their talent organized enough to put up something of a fight.
Oh, man. I really hope Notre Dame does the right thing and puts up billboards in every college town looking for a quarterback. What was the movie with Francis McDormand? 3 billboards? I think Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame need to do like a billboards across America. Quarterback question mark? Come out to South Bend, Indiana.
The job fair continues. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, one. Thank you all for downloading, for listening, for playing along with our madness at home. Dan, how's the back holding up? You okay?
So far, so good. It's just sort of like sore, but not debilitating at the moment. I got to change out the ice pack. I got to figure out some lunch. I got to see if I can make it the entire day standing because I'm not going to sit. And if I lay down, getting up is the grunts that come out of my body when I try to get from a laying position to a standing position are almost alien in nature.
Can you sleep standing up like a horse?
No. I'm okay lying down. I didn't have a good night's sleep last night, but yeah, I'm worried about what it's going to feel like in the morning. So I'm icing, I'm Advilling. Ty, you always have recommendations for dispensaries, so maybe I'll ask you about that off air. I got to do something to keep myself comfortable.
All right. Well, thank you again to everybody for your support.
Yes.
Don't forget to go on out to verballers.com, VERBALLERS.com. That is our Patreon. We are always cooking up a scheme or two, so make sure you stay tuned here to the Solid Verbal for more as the weekend progresses. For that guy over there, my good friend Dan Rubenstein, for myself, Ty Hildebrand, thank you so much for downloading, for listening, for always being so damn supportive. We'll talk to you all soon. Stay solid.
Peace.